So you're here because of one specific and, let's be honest, kinda annoying check engine light code, P0332. If that's the code you pulled from your scanner, then you are in exactly the right spot. We're gonna break down what it is and, more importantly, how to deal with it. You know the feeling, right? You're driving along, everything seems fine, and then, bam, that little amber engine icon lights up your dash. Your heart kinda sinks a little bit as you grab your scanner, wondering what it could possibly be this time. And then you see it, P0332. Okay, don't worry. Before you start thinking the worst, let's just decode exactly what your car is trying to tell you, figure out what's causing it, and map out a plan to get it fixed. All right, so first things first, before we even think about picking up a wrench, we've got to understand the message. Let's break down what P0332 actually means in plain English. Okay, the official definition is knock sensor 2 circuit low, bank 2. Now, I know, that is a total mouthful, but trust me, every single part of that phrase is a clue pointing us in the right direction. Let's start with the first part, the knock sensor. The easiest way to picture a knock sensor is to think of it as your engine's own personal microphone, or its ear. It's this tiny little device that's bolted directly onto the engine block, and its only job is to listen for a really specific, really damaging vibration we call engine knock or ping. When it hears that sound, it zaps a signal to the engine's main computer, telling it to adjust things immediately to protect itself. So what about that circuit low part? Well, that just means the engine's main computer, the ECM, isn't getting the signal it expects from that sensor. It's supposed to be getting a nice, clear voltage signal. Low tells us that the signal is either super weak or it's just gone. It's kind of like the computer is trying to listen in, but the phone line just went dead. And last up, bank 2. This one's easy. If you have a V-style engine, like a V6 or a V8, you've got two groups, or banks, of cylinders. Bank 1 is always the side that has cylinder number 1. Bank 2 is simply the other side. So this code is telling us the problem is on bank 2. See? Simple as that. Okay, theory's over. Let's talk about what this actually feels like from behind the wheel. What kind of symptoms should you be on the lookout for? Well, obviously, you've got the check engine light, but you might also feel a real difference in performance. See, when the computer can't trust the knock sensor, it goes into a sort of safe mode. It dials back the engine's timing to prevent any potential damage. That's a good safety feature, but the side effect is you'll feel like the engine has less power, and acceleration can feel really sluggish. You'll probably notice you're using more gas too, and funnily enough, you might actually hear some engine pinging, the very sound the sensor is supposed to stop. Now, this is super important. Sometimes you won't notice a single thing. The car might feel like it's driving perfectly fine. The only sign of trouble is that light on the dash. And I know it's tempting to just ignore it then, but believe me, the problem is still there, and your engine is unprotected. So what's actually making this code pop up? All right, time to put on our detective hats and look at the usual suspects. And check this out. This is really telling. Overwhelmingly, the root cause is electrical. About 60% of the time, it's the knock sensor itself that has just failed. Another 30% of the time, it's the wiring or the connector leading to it. It's actually pretty rare, only about 10% of cases, for the problem to be the main computer or some other mechanical issue. And when we say wiring issues, that could mean a few things. The wire itself could have rubbed through and is now touching a metal part of the engine, which kills the signal. The plastic connector could be full of green corrosion or water, or you could have a wire that's completely broken somewhere in the harness. Heck, it could even be as simple as the sensor itself just being loose and not bolted down tight enough. And here's the fun part. On a lot of V-style engines, especially those GM V8s that are famous for this code, the sensors aren't just sitting on top. No, they're buried deep in the valley of the engine, underneath the entire intake manifold. It's the best place for them to hear the engine, but it also means getting to them is definitely not a 5-minute job. All right, enough about what's wrong. Let's talk about how to make it right. Here's a solid step-by-step approach to track down the problem and get it fixed for good. Look, you want to avoid just throwing parts at the problem because that gets expensive fast, so you follow a process. First, always check if there are any other codes stored. Then you do a really careful visual inspection of all the wiring you can possibly see. If that all looks good, then you can try some hands-on tests like the tap test or using a multimeter to confirm the sensor is bad before you decide to replace it. And of course, after you do the repair, you have to clear the codes and go for a nice long test drive. Let's talk about that tap test because it's a pretty cool old school trick. You hook up a scan tool that can show you live data from the sensor. Then you take a wrench and just gently tap on the engine block right near where the sensor is. A healthy sensor will hear that tap as a vibration and send a little voltage spike. You'll see it on your scanner. But if you tap and the reading doesn't change at all, well, you've probably just found your dead sensor. And here is a pro tip that will save you a world of pain later. Since you have to do all that work to take the intake manifold off just to get to one sensor, you should absolutely replace both of them while you're in there. They're the same age, they've lived in the same hot environment. If one failed, the other one is probably not far behind. Do it once, do it right. So after all of that, you might be sitting there thinking, really? All this fuss over one tiny sensor that listens for a sound I might not even be able to hear? How important can it actually be? The answer is it's incredibly important. That tiny sensor is one of your engine's most vital bodyguards. Ignoring a P0332 code doesn't just mean you'll get bad performance and lousy gas mileage. It means you're leaving your engine wide open to serious, long-term damage from detonation. So fixing this isn't just about turning off a light on your dash. It's about making sure your engine's key line of defense is back on duty.